just stood up. I was sitting on a log beside the glowing embers of a bonfire as the sun begins to set in this wood. But it's time to return to civilization. And before I do, there's enough time to tell you about today's musings. And it's all about mental health. But before I do, I wanted to share with you a little bit of the conversation I had with Ben Raue, aka Plant-Based Ben. If you're at all interested in diet, fitness, health, and you're on social media, then you've probably seen the messages and the posts from Plant-Based Ben, and if you haven't, you're certainly missing a trick. And we chatted and we recorded. It was mainly just to test out the technology and to see how we could feasibly create a conversation that we would want to share with people. But it soon became clear after a few moments the technology just slipped away and we just got into chatting, and it was really cool. And it's really strengthened my resolve to arrange a proper time together to talk, sit beside the fire, have a drink, and just go through some topics that I know you'll be interested in, and I know that it's been playing on your mind, and yeah, we want to talk about it together. So we're very much looking forward to inviting you to sit beside us and listen in on our conversation. So what am I talking about today? Mental health. So in the process of moving my podcast provider from an old provider to where my podcasts currently live, which is on Anchor, I had to do a bit of fiddling around and manually re-upload some episodes. And it was in the process of reviewing what I wanted to keep and what I wanted to just, save in my private archive. I came across this message from 2015 where I spoke about my mental health story, and in particular my depression. Looking back in the past can always be a bit of a strange experience. The person I was, 5 years ago, 1 year ago, 5 months ago is going to be a different person. And I don't always want to be restrained or held to task for the decisions that I made in my past. If I was given the ability to change some things, I certainly would, but this is who I am now, and things are going well, and I'm progressing. So not everything that I say in my 2015 message are applicable, and I'm thankful for that. Some things still are, but I think as an exercise in just having more material and more conversations out there about mental health, it can only be a good thing, right? I thought at the time that speaking about mental health was a perhaps risky thing to do. I was fairly new into my nursing career, and it still felt like it was a perhaps risky thing to have done. People could have looked at me and wondered, was my decision making impacted as a result of the thoughts that I had and the feelings that were at times overwhelming? And I guess it was a legitimate concern. People just out of ignorance or lack of knowledge, obviously those being the two same things, I've just realised as I've said it, that's not always their fault, but I don't know, I felt like it was something that I had to do, because at the time I'd been hinting a lot about it, and I thought it was just, rather than skirting around the subject, just to be frank and honest. And I know nowadays people are a lot more accepting, I believe. More high profile people feel more comfortable in talking about their own problems. And I do believe that in the future people will start to see afflictions of the mind in the same way that they see physical afflictions, as something that can't always be helped. And similarly, as with physical afflictions, there are certainly things that you can do to help yourself, and certainly things that you can do which aren't going to get you to the health that you want. So, I share with you this message from my former self in the hope that it makes you think that you're not alone. Maybe it might give you the courage or the inspiration to be honest about what troubles you, but don't feel pressured into that. That's a decision for you and you alone. But I promise you, after this message, after this little fireside admission, there will be a conversation between myself and Ben Raue, plant-based Ben, where we will chew the vegan cud and speak about all the things that have been playing on our mind. And even as we were talking yesterday, there was so much that we wanted to talk about that made me feel really good about the future of these conversations that I'm going to be having with him, and looking forward to sharing. Anyway, as always, if you want to find all of the other episodes, just be sure to go to theemberspodcast.com. Anyway, take care, and let's hear from Adam back in 2015.
Hi, I'm Adam Roxby. I'm a father. I'm a black belt in karate, I'm a nurse, and I have depression. I've realised now for a while that I've been skirting around this issue, choosing to ignore or not fully acknowledge this part of my personality which affects me. So I've decided to speak honestly about this common mental health problem which affects me. A singer-songwriter friend of mine described his personal relationship with depression in a song of his. He said, "For me, depression is not a sadness. It's a reduction of all significance." And I can see some similarities in this description. From my perspective, depression is not like walking around all day crying. However, that is part of it. For me, it sort of feels like a headache, starting as a low, dull background ache in your mind. That sensation that you just don't feel right, and it grows and it grows. And like a headache, it makes you irritable. It wears you down, wearing away your defences. After a while, you get more and more numb. And when it fully takes hold, you become so disconnected and apathetic. As someone who feels compelled to be active and to create, getting to a stage where I am passively watching my life drain away because I have lost all feeling and emotion, is hell for me. So this is how it affects me. I slide deeper into a state where the only feeling of any passion and prominence is the feeling that this world is an ugly place and it would be better if I wasn't a part of it. It's hard for me to say these things when I have so much to be thankful for, and I know some people won't be able to understand this. That's fine. I had trouble empathizing and relating to people I came into contact with who were suffering from depression. I wanted to shape them and make them see what I could see, make them be grateful for the life that they had. I also feel lost. I feel I am tantalizingly close to being happy, content, and at peace. That there is a better life I can work for if only I just knew how. It's like you're in an unfamiliar place and you can hear there's a party happening somewhere. You know somewhere nearby people are happy and are having fun, and you want to be there but you just can't find it. But I also feel trapped. I feel trapped by regret, and that trapped feeling transforms me into a caged animal, violently lashing out indiscriminately out of anger at the world, at times full of energy and vigour, but with no knowledge or means to direct it in a positive manner or in a way that will improve my situation. Maybe I've been spoilt by playing computer games, with the luxury of reverting back to a previously saved game if I make a decision I subsequently regret. The feeling that all decisions I make are final, total, and irrevocable sickens me. As a close friend of mine told me, life is the one thing that people expect you to get right first time. So this is how it affects me, but what's the answer? Well, as you can expect, I've had counselling and I'm on medication, but that's only part of the solution. Counselling helps to give you tools and tricks to change the negative thoughts and impulses that you have and try to process them differently. That works to a degree, but it requires you to engage and work with it. You have to be at a stage where you can be receptive to the techniques. And you also can't be lazy. It requires constant work and upkeep. Incorporating these methods into your normal routine, lest you get complacent and start reverting back to your destructive ways of thinking again. Then there is the medication. I don't feel the stigma anymore when I take medication. No more than I would if I took paracetamol for a headache. It does help raise my mood. When desperation and abject hopelessness can be a moment away, it's nice to be buffeted with a bit of medication. It's a fine balance that takes a bit of trial and error. It also takes an awareness of the possible side effects. The most prominent is that I have an increase in my anxiety. That's unpleasant, but ultimately harmless. It's something I'm working with my GP to try and combat, but I would certainly take those side effects and go back to where I was in my darkest moments. Being active also helps. I go to karate and the gym when I can. I find being in my dojo brings considerable peace. Being around friends that I have known for so many years in a supportive environment, learning the skills and the respect of a martial art is a great form of therapy for me, and I would recommend it to anybody. Not only does exercise in and of itself help, but I find comfort in my self-control. I have a deep-set problem, which is that I don't like the feeling of not being in control, so I like exacting some sort of control over my life, through controlled eating and regular exercise. Creating things also soothes my soul and makes me feel like I'm not just a passive consumer. The constant drive to be productive isn't always positive. There are many times when I should just stop and do something that is purely pleasurable, like play a game or watch a film, but whenever I try to do that, I always have a shard of guilt that I should be doing something productive or creative. Sometimes that feeling wins over, and sometimes I try and carry on regardless. Then there are the people in my life. I often wonder what makes a life meaningful, fulfilled, or worth living. Considering I don't believe in a grand overseer or a celestial designer, then it's up to us to forge our own purpose. I find meaning in the contact I have with others and the hope that I can connect with others emotionally. I get meaning from the appreciation of art and the hope that I can create some of it in turn, or the possibility that I can create and cherish more than I destroy. Then, of course, there are my children, the only true way we can find life after death. While I have trouble expressing my emotions, I hope they know that the love I have for them has fully consumed me and has stayed my destructive hands on a number of occasions. They, of course, can't know the full extent of this, not for many years at least. To feel like you are somebody's sole anchor and strength can be quite a burden. When my first child was born and I became a father for the first time, I had a lucid moment which realigned my priorities. It didn't really matter what happened to me now, because my job was to try and make a world fit for him, and that feeling has been bolstered with the arrival of my second child. Being with them has the ability to cast away all other concerns, if only for a while. I'm not sure what the answer is. Clearly this is something that's going to lurk within me for the rest of my life, and it's going to take a constant vigilance to keep it at bay. As I have said, many people experience feelings like this and have their own ways of coping. It is my hope that more people are able to talk about this affliction and more people share their stories. Then the more we can grow together as a loving and connected society. To build the just city, to quote the inspirational Christopher Hitchens. I can't know what my future holds, and I can't make promises. I can't make plans. Science has shown us that we are all related to each other, that we all share a common connection. It is my hope that we can nurture this for the betterment of us all. Anyway, that's my story. Thank you for your time.